Have you ever had that one friend where your relationship status is just permanently set to "it's complicated"? One minute you're sharing fries, the next you're arguing about who gets the last one, and suddenly you're not speaking for a decade. Well, that's basically the United States and Russia. Their story isn't a simple tale of good guys and bad guys. It's a long, winding road with more twists than a telenovela. For over a century, these two giants have circled each other. Sometimes as partners, often as rivals, and always as major players on the world stage. It's a history that has shaped the globe, defined generations, and left everyone else wondering if they're about to make up or break up for good. To truly understand why these two powers are where they are today, you can't just look at the latest headline. You have to rewind the tape. We're going to take a trip back in time, a highlight reel of the US-Russia saga. This isn't about picking sides. It's about connecting the dots. We'll look at the key moments, the big decisions, and the epic misunderstandings fueling this relationship. Think of it as a crash course, Russia versus USA, explained without a PhD in international relations. We'll see how they went from allies to adversaries and back again multiple times. This journey begins in the early 20th century as both nations transformed. The United States was stepping onto the world stage as a new industrial power, full of ambition and democratic ideals. Meanwhile, Russia's Bolshevik Revolution birthed the Soviet Union. Right from the start, their philosophies were like oil and water. America emphasized capitalism and individual freedom, while the Soviet state championed communism and collective control. Visual emphasis. This clash of ideologies seeded a rivalry that would dominate the planet. From cautious observation to Cold War drama and the messy present. Before they were arch enemies, they were, believe it or not, on the same team. World War II was the ultimate enemy of my enemy alliance. The United States and the Soviet Union faced a common existential threat, a partnership born of necessity. American factories churned out equipment, tanks, planes, supplies, shipped to the Soviet front. Aid helped turn the tide in the East. Together, they defeated the Axis. Soviet soldiers bore staggering losses, facing the brunt of the war machine. Allied forces opened a second front. Use handshake LB photo. For a moment, shared victory promised peace. But cracks appeared fast. Competing visions for Europe, rising suspicion, the Cold War began. The Cold War was a half-century staring contest, high stakes, relentless, with enough nukes on both sides to end civilization. They called it mutually assured destruction, MAD. And yes, it was completely mad. They fought in every other arena, the space race, the Olympics, and proxy conflicts, Korea, Vietnam, Africa, Latin America. The closest call, Cuba, 1962. Soviet missiles, 90 miles from Florida. 13 days of breath held worldwide. Back channels and compromise pulled them back. A sobering wake-up call led to détente, with treaties like SALT putting limits on arsenals, ground rules, not friendship. In 1975, astronauts and cosmonauts shook hands in space. Proof cooperation was possible. Beneath ideologies, there was common humanity. In 1991, the unthinkable happened. The Soviet Union ended. The Cold War was over. The United States had won. The world exhaled. The 90s were wild, chaotic, and optimistic. Russia opened to the West. Partnership talk filled the air. Businesses, advisors, even fast food rushed in. Washington backed market reforms with loans and expertise. Scientists collaborated to lock down nuclear stockpiles. For ordinary Russians, shock therapy, hyperinflation, social chaos. Savings vanished, oligarchs rose, superpower status faded, humiliation simmered beneath the surface. NATO moved east, to Moscow, a betrayal and a threat. Optimism faded into mutual disillusionment. Washington decried backsliding. Russia saw arrogance. The honeymoon was over. A new leader promised pride, strength, and order. His name, Vladimir Putin, a turning point. Putin set out to make Russia strong and respected again. Early cooperation met growing disagreements. After 9/11, they briefly aligned against terror. Iraq and NATO expansion widened the rift. Charges of aggression abroad and authoritarianism at home mounted. 2014, Crimea's annexation and war in eastern Ukraine shattered the post-Cold War order. The US and allies hit back with sweeping sanctions. Accusations of hacking and treaty violations followed. In 2022, war drove relations to a new low, with massive sanctions and aid to Ukraine. Direct dialogue faded, hostility rose, a dangerous standoff. 2025, the relationship looks more broken than ever. It's easy to feel despair. Yet even now, channels exist to prevent accidents. On global challenges, the big players still need to be in the same room.